All right, we are going to wrap up body systems with looking at the cardiovascular system. Cardiovascular system functions to get blood circulating throughout your body. It needs to have oxygen, nutrients, and hormones get to all of your cells. So your blood will carry those things to all of your body cells. And then your cells give off waste. So in return, your blood will pick up that waste as it's dropping off the oxygen, nutrients, and hormones. And that gets, again, circulated through the body. That waste, the blood with waste in it, would make its way to your kidneys to be filtered out, like we talked about yesterday with the urinary system. The organs of your cardiovascular system include the heart, blood vessels, and blood. We'll take a minute and talk about each of those individually. So looking at the heart, it is about the size of your fist, and it's located in the center of your chest. When you say the Pledge of Allegiance and you put your hand over your heart, you normally place your hand over the left side of your upper chest, kind of right below your shoulder, your left shoulder. But your heart is actually in the center of your chest, right behind your sternum or the breastbone. It's just slightly tilted to the left, so the apex of the heart down here is pointed towards the left hip. The base of the heart is tilted towards your right shoulder. There are 4 chambers in the heart. There are 2 upper chambers. Each upper chamber is called an atrium. Plural would be atria. So you have 2 atria, or you could say you have a right atrium and a left atrium. The bottom chambers of the heart are called ventricles. So you have a right ventricle and a left ventricle. Again, this diagram, right and left, is switched from your own right and left because this heart is in what we call anatomical position. And so you would be looking at someone else's heart in this diagram. So you would be referring to the person whose heart this is, their right and their left, which is opposite of your own when you're facing them. Your heart also has 4 valves. Valves help to control the pathway that blood flows and keeps blood from flowing backwards. You have one in between each atria and ventricle. So you have a valve right here between the right atrium and the right ventricle. That's called the tricuspid valve. And you have another valve between the left atrium and the left ventricle, and that's called the bicuspid valve. You have 2 other valves that are going to control the blood flow out of your heart and into an artery. So you would have a valve here in between the right ventricle and the pulmonary artery. And then you would have another valve. It's not labeled, but it's kind of tucked up back here between the left ventricle and the aorta, which is also not labeled. When blood leaves the heart, it's going to leave in vessels called arteries. So arteries are blood vessels that carry blood away from the heart. In most cases, arteries carry oxygen-rich blood. So on diagrams, we use red to denote oxygen-rich blood or oxygenated blood, and we use blue to show oxygen-poor or deoxygenated blood. That is not to say that you actually have blue blood in your body. It's actually just a dark red, almost a purple color. The reason why we use blue and why people sometimes think we have blue blood in our bodies is when you look at your arms, for example, your veins typically look kind of bluish. But that's just your skin over top of those blood vessels. The blood inside of them is not actually blue. Veins are responsible for returning blood to your heart. And then your smallest blood vessels are your capillaries. Capillaries are going to connect your arteries to your veins, and that's going to be where diffusion happens. So where oxygen is going to leave your blood and go into the cells of your body, where carbon dioxide will leave the cells of your body and go into your blood. The same thing with nutrients from your digestive system. Those will diffuse into your capillaries to get those nutrients into your bloodstream. On the diagram here, you also see arterioles and venules. I did not include them on the list here. Arterioles are just small arteries and venules are just small veins. So we'll focus on those when we go through the cardiovascular system. We'll learn more about that then. If we take a look at your blood, you have 3 kinds of blood cells. You have red blood cells, which are these larger kind of disc, red, and they're red. They're responsible for carrying oxygen in your blood. You have white blood cells. You can see that they are the largest kind of blood cell that you have. They are for helping fight pathogens. If you remember, we talked about those when we reviewed the immune system. And then platelets are small little cell fragments that are going to help with blood clotting. So if you were to get a paper cut and started to bleed, your platelets would help you stop the bleeding so you don't lose too much blood. Finally, we're going to talk about circulation. Circulation, there are 3 types of circulation in our body. We have pulmonary circulation. Anytime you see the prefix pulmo, it refers to your lungs. So pulmonary circulation is when blood is pumped from the right side of your heart to each lung. It becomes oxygenated in your lungs. If you remember, we talked about the alveoli are surrounded by capillaries, and the oxygen diffuses from the air in the alveoli in your lungs into your bloodstream. So your blood becomes oxygenated in your lungs, and then it's going to return to the left side of your heart. From there, systemic circulation can happen, and that's going to be when the blood is pumped from the left side of your heart, and it's going to be oxygen rich at that point because it just came back from your lungs. And that is going to be pumped out of your heart to all of your body's systems. So if you think of systemic as in systems for your body, the blood full of oxygen goes to deliver that oxygen to all of your organ systems. The one that is not shown on this diagram is called coronary circulation. Even though your heart is filled with blood as it's pumping through the heart, that blood actually is not able to nourish the tissues of the heart, that cardiac muscle. So your heart has its own blood vessels. Now, we didn't talk about it yet, but the largest blood vessel in your body is called the aorta. That's going to be this blood vessel here, leaving right from the left ventricle. And branching off at the base of that are going to be your coronary arteries. So the first place that your heart actually pumps oxygen-rich blood to is itself. Kind of seems selfish if you think about it, but your heart needs oxygen in order to keep working. So it needs to supply itself first. Kind of like you need to put on your own oxygen mask on an airplane, if that were the case, before you help somebody else put on theirs. And just to wrap up, we're going to watch a short video again so you can see some of these parts in 3D.
The cardiovascular system transports blood around the human body and is made up of the heart and blood vessels. Blood carries oxygen, nutrients, and hormones to the tissues of the body and carries waste products such as carbon dioxide away from the tissues. Blood vessels can be separated into 3 groups: arteries, veins, and capillaries. Arteries carry blood away from the heart. Veins carry blood towards the heart. Capillaries are microscopic, thin-walled blood vessels which form a vast network connecting the arteries and veins. The walls of the blood vessels have 3 layers. The outer layer is called the tunica externa and is made of fibrous connective tissue. The middle layer is called the tunica media and is made of smooth muscles and elastic fibers. The inner layer is called the tunica intima and is made of a single layer of cells called the endothelial cells. The lumen is the hollow cavity bordered by the walls of the blood vessel.
So there we have just kind of a little bit of visual for the cardiovascular system. Again, this is our last system to wrap up the 11 body systems. We have a couple more things to do. You'll use this lesson to help you complete your assignment for the day. And then we have a couple more things that we will use to finish up body systems before we move on to our next topic. If you have any questions on the cardiovascular system, please just let me know and I can help you out with whatever you need.